Paul Isaac, who's in his school days, who has been actively involved in various sports. He's a tall guy. This is when he was in his peak form and working. This is when his leg got amputated, and you find bandages on his leg. And here he gives his testimony.
My name is Paul, and I thank God for giving me this opportunity to stand before you and tell you about the wonders He's been working in my life despite my unworthiness. As I was telling Reverend just before we got started, it's very difficult to edit the work of God in one's life. But here goes. I'll make it as short as possible. Let me start somewhere during my second year of college. That was the first time I turned to the Lord. The Lord blessed me richly. I had a fantastic career in athletics. I used to be a javelin thrower at national level. There are still records which haven't been broken. I really had a wonderful time with the Lord, but the Lord used me to carry His word to my fellow athletes all over the country, because we used to travel a lot. Now, just before I started knocking at the doors of international athletics, I did something stupid. I decided to see what the world had to offer to me. I was curious. Everybody seemed to be having a nice time, I thought. And I started dabbling in the pleasures of the world. I backslid. I just slid completely. I washed myself out. The peace that I had vanished. The fullness that I had in my life emptied out completely. There was a vacuum. And I was trying to find myself. I was trying to find myself so foolishly, but I knew that the answer in front of me was just this, that Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. I was so blinded by my sin. I was so blinded by my sinful ways that I just ignored the Lord. I turned my back on the Lord. I lived like this for 25 years. A life of emptiness. A life of seeking but never finding. There was this thing inside me telling me, like, you need to pray, you need to get back to the Lord. But then Satan has this knack, especially with the backslidden people. Satan has this knack of putting a thought in your mind saying you're gone. You're wiped out. Your life is over. You're a reject. And foolish as I was, I believed that lie. And I continued searching for myself, trying to find myself. I tried everything. I tried everything. And I learned the very hard way that there is no chemical solution for a spiritual problem. I lived like this for 25 years, more than 25 years, with the Lord waiting for me to get back to Him. I had my encounter with the Lord. I actually had a small awakening in between in 2011 when my kidneys failed. I'm still on dialysis. Yes, I'm still on dialysis, and I stand before you with this voice which God has given me to speak to you. The Lord has been holding me through my days when I fell ill in 2011. He's been holding me right through. I don't have a medical insurance to my name. The Lord has strengthened me. He's given me the strength in my limbs to work. I still work. I still travel. I did so many things. What happened to me in those 25 years? I lost everything. I lost my family. My family life was in a shambles. My career was in a shambles. My business was in a shambles. My spiritual life was in a shambles. My health was in a shambles. I was a mess. Now, this was God's way of calling me back. This was God's way of telling me, turn back. But I was lukewarm. I didn't make a solid commitment to the Lord. I just kept praying. I managed to keep afloat. But that was not enough for the Lord. That was not enough that was not enough from my side, because I had to make a commitment for the purpose which the Lord has in my life. I had my encounter with the Lord this year, 2016, the 4th of January. That was the day I had my legs amputated. And strangely enough, everybody around me expected me to have withdrawn into a shell and gone into a corner and be sitting and wallowing in self-pity. No. I was filled with a strange kind of confidence. I was filled with a strange kind of peace. And the one verse that kept coming to me every time was Joel chapter 2 verse 25, which says, I will repay you the years the locusts have taken away. Now, my friends, when we backslide or when we live in this world, we are actually exposing ourselves to be eaten by the locusts. That's the ways of this world. The promise in that word said, I will repay you the years the locusts have taken away. And I'm experiencing that today. Today, I have a life. Today, my business has grown. My thought process has changed. The way I would have handled a situation earlier in certain situations, today I know I would have reacted like an animal. But today there is a certain peace. And one very important thing about this surgery was, my mind was filled with a peace that passes all understanding. And that peace transcends all the pain. It transcends all your inadequacies. It transcends all your pain. You don't feel pain. You don't feel anything. You're filled with peace. It is an undescribable. It's absolutely undescribable. You cannot put a finger on it. Now, there were numerous miracles which worked right from the hospitals. The very fact that I'm standing in front of you today is a miracle. Technically and medically, I'm not supposed to be standing so soon. But let me tell you of one great miracle which happened in the hospital. My left leg wasn't closing properly, and my surgeon was very apprehensive. He thought I was going to lose my left leg above my knee, which would have been rather sad. He called me into surgery. He said, yeah, we'll have to cut you open without anesthesia. Let's sit and see how it works. If it doesn't work, then we have to chop above your knee. Well, just before going into surgery, my wife and I prayed. I claimed the miracle in the name of Christ. I said, Lord, I want you to show us your power. I want you to work a miracle. There will be a miracle. I claimed it and I went into the operating theater. The doctor said 45 minutes. He got up in 5. And I asked him, I said, Doctor, what's happened? You said 45. Now, an hour before the surgery, that was a festering wound. It was a repulsive wound, and it looked like that leg had to go. But at the end of the surgery, an hour later, at the end of that surgery, the doctor said, my work is over. The wound has healed. You don't need to worry. The wound is closing on its own. Now that, my friends, is the way the Lord works. Now, the next day, the chief of surgeons came to pay me a visit in the ward, in the room. He just had one thing, and a brilliant surgeon, this one. An absolutely brilliant surgeon. He just pointed out to my stump and said, Paul, there's something happening out there, I don't know what it is. Those were his exact words. The beauty of things is once we put our lives in God's hands, along with the messes, along with the shambles, along with the backsliding, along with the filth we happen to wallow in, we just place ourselves in God's hands and ask Him to work for us. This is what happens. The world will have no answers. There is no scientific explanation for anything. When the Lord decides to work for you, He will work for you in a very big way, in an amazing way you would have never expected. Now, this, my friends, is an invitation, especially for those who are being tormented by their illnesses. There are a lot of us who are tormented by our illnesses. There are a lot of us who are tormented by the very thought that we might fall sick. God does not want you to live a life of torment. He wants you to live a life of freedom, of peace. And He's waiting for you to turn to Him and just ask Him. Ask and it will be given to you. God bless you all.